Jai Janendra, everyone. Welcome you all to this lecture series called Three Gems. This is the second lecture in the row, and we have one more further lecture for the third gem. So, in the previous lecture, we have started the brief introduction to three gems, and we have learned about the first gem, which is right belief, Samyak Darshan. Very privileged to have Anubhav Bhaiya here with us, who had initiated this discussion in the first lecture, and today he will take up the second gem, and the next last lecture will be the concluding lecture. Before I hand over the mic to him, I wanted to shortly introduce you all who are new in today's session about the Jeev portal. Jeev is Jain English Education and Values. On this portal, on this platform, you will learn the terminologies, the principles, the syllabus of Jainism, the curriculum in English medium. Entire syllabus is converted into the English language, and further accessible points for this portal, I will share it in the later part of the lecture after the question answer rounds. So before I just invite Anubhav Bhaiya to start today's session, let's shortly summarize what we learned earlier in the first lecture. As we all know, the most important topic, the most important attitude of every Atmarthi is to attain liberation, to attain salvation. So this why this lecture is important, because there are three steps through which you will attain liberation. That is right belief, right knowledge, and right conduct. Samyak darshan, samyak gyan, samyak charitra. In last lecture, we have learned about the three gems along with the different definitions of Ratnatraya. Swaparka Shraddhan is Ratnatraya, yourself and other, or the fundamental elements, knowing them, or the true gods, scriptures, and ascetic. Dev Shastra Ka Shraddhani Samyak Darshan hai. So all these definitions we have covered. And now, after Samyak Darshan, I would ask Anubhav Bhaiya to start with today's explanation on Samyak Gyan. Over to you, Bhaiya.
Thank you, Harshil Bhai. Jai Hind, everyone. Let's have Manglacharan. Join your hands, please. Atmagyanam Swayam Gyanam Gyanatanyat Karoti Kim Parbhavasya Kartatma Mohoyam Vyavaharinam. In the series, second gems, which is right knowledge. You must have heard about this thing that ज्ञान समान न आन जगत में सुख को कारण एह परमामृत जन्म जरा मृत्यु रोग निवारण. This thing I'm quoting from Chaidalaji. Pandit Daulat Ram ji has mentioned this in the fourth dhal. ज्ञान समान न आन जगत में सुख को कारण. There is nothing in this world who can really replace the right knowledge, and the right knowledge is the only thing which is the true cause of happiness. So let's understand this third gem in our second gem in our series, which is right knowledge, samyak gyan. The power of knowledge, I think everyone know in this particular era of where everywhere the knowledge is flowing, information is flowing. There is a difference between information and knowledge. We will talk about that part as well. So, right knowledge, samyak gyan. What about the right knowledge? What we are really talking about? So, first thing is seven purposeful element, which we have talked about last time as well. Jeev, Ajeev, Ashra, Bandh, Samvar, Nirzara, and Moksha. These are the seven purposeful element. Why we call this as a purposeful element? Because without knowing the true uh, without knowing these seven different elements properly, we will not be able to attain the happiness in our life. So that is why these are the most essential uh, seven different elements, and that is why the term comes into the picture, purposeful element. So the true knowledge about this seven purposeful element is called right knowledge. That's the one aspect of the right knowledge. What happens in this right knowledge? If we go in a deep, there is no shanshay, there is no viparya, there is no anadyavasaya. What this sanshay, viparya, and anadyavasaya is about these seven different purposeful element, there is no doubt, no illusion, and no ignorance as such. No ignorance means uncertainty or ignorance that it will be something. I'm not interested, I'm not want to put any energy about it. So that is where the uh, that is where the Anadvasai comes into the picture. So that's the devoid of flaws. And then the third element comes, Vastu itself. Thing itself is having the multi dimensions of the reality. And if you see this particular picture, uh, this is a pyramid, right? But if we see one face of it from side view, it appears like a triangle. And if we see the same thing from the top view, it appears like a square, right? So one particular thing itself is having the multi-dimensional reality, and that is what called in Jainism is anekant. Ant means dharma, perspective, gun, the different attributes of the of that particular thing. So that is called ant. Anek means more than one. So more than one, that is one thing, and there is a pair of it. So if you think about, are we eternal or are we momentary? So answer is two. We are momentary as well as eternal. The thing which is changing every moment, that is paryaya. Its function is to be arise and get fed up, right? So it is a momentary thing, that is what called anitya. And then there is something which is eternal, dravya part of it. And at the same time, both the properties exist. Its eternalness is also exist with continuous changing. So that is what the two different perspective are present in the vastu. But the thing is, when we think from only one direction and we do the uh, we do rigid of it, and don't accept the other part of that particular thing, other side of the coin, that is where the mithya ekant comes into the picture. But when we have true perspective about the vastu, we understand from which particular viewpoint this vastu is like this. That is what comes into the samyagyan territory. So this is what three different things we talk about the gyan: the true knowledge about seven purposeful element, and this particular knowledge should not have any shanshay, which means any doubt about it. What is a doubt? Sometime I think like I am Jeev, but sometime I can do the work of Ajeev as well. Sometime things are changing according to me. Sometime it happens like this, sometime it happens like that. So that confusion about how exactly the things are working, how exactly my role fits into all this seven different purposeful element, who am I really in this? So there is a confusion always, right? And always having a dilemma. That dilemma is called shanshay. no doubt there will be many dilemmas in our life. We have dilemma about choosing one, either or, but that dilemma is not called shanshay, or maybe functionally it's shanshay, but that doesn't affect your birth and uh, death cycle, right? But the shanshay about the seven different purposeful element affects the birth and life cycle. How does it affect? As soon as I fall into the trap of sanshaya, that I confuse myself, infuse myself with my thoughts of rag dvesha, at the very moment karma starts attracting. Obviously this is continuous flow is happening, but I'm taking that particular moment. Why the karma are attracted to us? Because we are confused about our persona, and that particular confusion in our persona, mixing our persona with ashrava, bondage, influx, and then the bondage, infusing that persona is basically fall into the sanshaya territory, and then that sanshaya is causing what? Influx, attraction of the karma, and then the further cycles goes on and keep on going, right? So that is where sanshaya is harmful. Similarly, viparya, when we have illusion about something, we understand, I mean, sanshaya was having the dilemma, but in viparya it is confirmed misbelieved that I am the one who is really doing the work of this body, and every other things are moving around me only. I am the doer. I am the having the oneness with my body and all, with my thoughts and all. So all these things falls into the viparya. And then there are further three different type of the viparya inside it. Uh, we'll talk about if we have opportunity to talk. I'll just name it over here. So it's a uh, कारण कार्य विपर्य, भेदा भेद विपर्य, and swarup viparya. And these terminologies are very famous in the world of nyaya. Nyaya is one of the branch of Jainism where things are uh, tested logically, not within the Jainism's forum, but to the wider forum, so that everyone understand this Tattva Gyan. And if you have heard about Acharya Samant Bhadradev, who is the founder of this particular branch in this era, I would say. Obviously, this branch exists eternally, but then in this era, we do call Samant Bhadra Acharya is a Pratishtapak Acharya of this Nyaya stream, okay, which means kind of founder. So that is where this discussions comes into the picture, and then they have multiple discussions about, and to the point they are pointing out what exactly the mistake in the viparya part. uh, karan karya viparya, cause and effect uh, misunderstanding, and then bheda bhed viparya is kind of a mixing the two things. The thing which are one, we are having the factors in it, and then the things which are actually the two different things, we are combining them. So that is where the viparya comes into the picture. And then anadhyavasa is more about ignorance, uh, or we would say uncertainties. It will be something I'm really not interested, and this is very dangerous state of the knowledge. When we being uh, actually the knower, we being the having the power of knowing something, and we are truly ignoring that part, ignoring ourselves. I'm not really interested to listen. Who am I? I'm enjoying my life. Let me be in my life. And that is the thought process of Anadhyavasa. And that is seriously, uh, this particular Manushya Bhav is having the capability of clearing out all these Sanshaya, Viparya, and Anadhyavasa. Imagine we are sitting in a car, and then our attitude or a wind wind sheet is uh, having the patches of or the or the something which is blocking our vision, right? And then the thing is, we are actually not interested to clean that windshield. We are not interested to really wipe out all the uh, dust which is sitting over there and just leading on the life road. That is really very dangerous. What exactly going to happen? Pretty much prone to be accident. And now that is what Sanshay Viparya and Anadhyavasaya is on our windsheet. Really, we should use the wiper and then uh, clear out all these confusions. Okay, so that is where the right knowledge part we have talked about. Further, coming to the part what this right knowledge in connection with the right belief. So first of all, knowledge is a power who is clearly distinguishing the seven different purposeful elements, finding out who is what. Jeev is a jeev, ajeev is a ajeev, ashra, ban, samvar, nirzara, moksh. Everything is having its own property, and we are not infusing it with our persona, which is jiva. Now, from where this knowledge part coming into the picture, we have think about shraddha. Um, if you have heard about very famous gatha from Samay Granthadhiraj, 17th and 18th gatha, there the first thing came, the question came, how exactly this jeev will become jnani, knowledgeful. So then the point, the answer came from Kunkund Acharya Dev is, ज्यों पुरुष कोई नृपति को भी जान कर श्रद्धा करे. The one who would like to really be rich, first that particular person has to understand who is rich man in this world. Okay, and then so know that rich person, and then have a firm belief that this is a rich person, and if I do follow, then I'll also become rich. So this is the cycle of being rich. Similarly, जीवराज को यो जानना, you know जीव तत्व, फिर श्रद्धना इस रीति से उसका ही करना अनुचरण, मोक्षार्थी होकर यत्न से. ओके, ऐसे ही जीवराज को, द जीवराज, द होल एंड सोल मी, अनंत वैभव संपन्न चैतन्य, that is what we need to know. Knowing, believing, and then following, applying that part, being in oneself. So this is the process cycle. In the process cycle, first comes knowing part, believing part, and then uh, the samyak charitra part, anucharan, which means following. Okay, but when it comes to the knowledge becoming right or wrong, then belief comes into the first picture. Why? Because I can really understand these seven different elements about myself. I can really preach. But the thing is, I really need to understand whether the whole thing which I'm having in my knowledge is that what I believe. I know that Jeev is Jeev, Ashrav is Hey, Ashrav is something which we should not really do. I know it, but do I feel it? And how can I feel it? Because the firm belief is needed that I am Jeev. When I know I am Jeev, then only I can think that Ashrav is not me. Ashrav is not good for me. Ashrav is having the different nature than me. Um, I hope you are able to connect with what Ashrav I'm referring here. Influx, which means the mohirag dvesh, the uh, the bhav of being oneness with the body, being the doer of this body, and the things around us, and being having the oneness with our uh, the parinam of attraction and aversion. So all these things falls into the ashra bucket. And then with this ashra, am I different or I'm the same? I'm having what connection I'm really holding with this ashra. So to really one, unless until we have the right belief about myself that I'm the Gyan Swabhavi Chaitanya Tattva, and this ashram is having the very different nature than me, that particular knowledge which I'm attaining through Jinwani or uh, through Munraj Bhagwant or Divyadhwani, that particular knowledge is just residing in my Chayapsham Gyan. That knowledge will not be called right knowledge unless we believe it. Okay, so that is where this karta this cause and effect analysis comes into the picture. At that very moment, right belief is considered as a cause, then the same knowledge will be termed as a right knowledge, and that is the effect. So very good example has been given in Chadalaji Granthadhiraj that we are quoting here. Deepak, the candle is a cause and the light is the effect. When candle happens and when light comes, there is no time gap. Candle will be called candle only when it is lighting. Otherwise, it is just a stick, right? So, from time factor point of view, there is no time gap being this candle and being this light available. Okay. Similarly, there is no time gap between the having the right belief and the right knowledge. So that is where we saying the evolution of the right belief and the right knowledge occurs simultaneously. Yet, right belief is considered the cause and the right knowledge the effect. Much like the lightning of a lamp and the brightness in the room occurring the same instance. So that is where the cause and effect relationship between right belief and the right knowledge comes into the picture. Bringing this into the real life scenario, let's think about every knowledge which we getting from the theory part, unless we experiment it, unless we believe it, it doesn't have that grace which is really can be termed as a knowledge. Pretty much before that, it was just an informational part. But when we have something experimented, when we done practical of it, and when we firmly believe on that particular concept, that is where it terms as a knowledge. That is where it is termed as a wisdom, if I really use a very uh, appropriate or closer word around it. So then it turns into the wisdom, right? So belief is turning the informational part into the wisdom, and that is where the relationship established between this part. Now coming to the why this right knowledge is crucial, differentiating between the self and the non-self. Otherwise, we will always be confused about our persona, right? So differentiating between self and the non-self is very crucial part of liberation. Very crucial part. Otherwise, we will always be we will always be in confusion, and that confusion is leading to the influx of the karmas. We are every time having those karma bandhan and then karmas coming into the uday part. That is from the karma theory point of view, in the language of the karma theory. If we solely talk about our emotions part, then every time we are away from ourselves, always indulge, infuse our personality with everything else which is around us, and that particular thing will never ever be um, become the cause of our happiness. will never ever be really uh, contributing in the stepping towards the liberation. Rather, it will always be uh, attracting us towards the black hole of this whole sansara, right? So, right knowledge is a crucial in differentiating between the self and the non-self, and in making accurate decision about what is worth accepting and what needs to be left out, renounced, right? So we termed it as a upadeya, the worth accepting, and the one which needs to be left. So this peanuts, if you think about knowing what exactly is uh, to be accepted and what exactly to be left behind, or the renouncing, right? Worth renouncing. Similarly, the self, the knowledge part, the supreme soul part, right? Where there is no body, no bhav of those moh rag dvesh, that is what called self. And then there's the body, and inside it, if we talk about all the bhav which we are having about about loving something or hating something, all those bhav also not the part or the in the territory of the jeev dravya, jeev tattva, right? And this knowledge, such knowledge generates true bliss, because unless, and there is a very much friendship between knowledge and true bliss. So if knowledge is true, the bliss will also be true. If knowledge is fake, the bliss will also be fake. And that is where knowledge is so crucial. Unless we have the right stepping stone, uh, we will not be able to attain the bliss part, right? So such knowledge generates the true bliss, like the sun effectively eradicates the miseries arising from the darkness of the ignorance. So that is what the essential what we say, the ज्ञान समान न आन जगत में सुख को कारण, इह परमामृत. And it is that pious, that pious, this auspicious thing, uh, which really freeing uh, ourselves from the birth, uh, the cycle of the birth and death. What this pure knowledge is this where it happens really? Is this happening somewhere in my words, or somewhere in my eyes, or somewhere in the Jinvani, or somewhere in my vichar? How exactly, where exactly this right knowledge happens? So yeah, we do call that Jinvani is giving us the Samyak Gyan and all, but where it has originated, whose whole and soul property it is. It is a pure transformation of the soul itself, originating from within the self. And that originated knowledge may be encrypted, transcripted, written into the Jinvani, could be mentioned with our speeches and all. But the knowledge itself is happening only in the soul. So to search the knowledge, do we really needs to scroll through reels? Should we really go to the YouTubes and all? Or should we explore the world and then we are getting the knowledge? Actually, the reality is, at that very moment when we are thinking that we are grabbing the information or the knowledge from outside, actually it is not coming from outside. It is always coming from inside. It is happening within the uh, within our own territory, and that is very important factor one should really realize in this era of the overwhelming information, because everyone is behind the information, thinking about that I'm getting knowledge. When I scroll through some video, when that those catchy titles are coming into the videos, and then they are showing something, or maybe any news or something, we really think about that I'm getting the knowledge. But just pause at that very moment and think about, is this knowledge? Is a real is this really a knowledge? Can we really term it as a knowledge? Because knowledge is the one which really make us happy. That is the one thing. And the other part of the knowledge is the one who can really differentiate who am I and who am I not, right? So one side my existence, and the every other uh, worldly things will be the other side of the table. That is clear distinguished power. That power is called the right knowledge. And that power, how it is associated again with the right belief is because unless we have the right belief, the first jam samyak darshan, this whole knowledge which we are maybe terming as a knowledge is really having no sense. That first uh, pot, if it is uh, kept upward down, then every other thing will not be able to really uh, put it upside down on it, right? So to have the uh, right knowledge, we really need a right belief, and eventually right conduct will also be following the same part. So if belief is itself is wrong, then every other thing will be falling into the part of wrongness only. That is what the uh, reality about this, or the connection between all these three gems basically. Now one might wonder, how can this be? How can we say that a doctor, a scientist, or a Nobel uh, lateral possesses wrong knowledge? Why you are saying belief is so important? This particular person is master in his field, right? Let's take an example of any scientist, NASA scientist. Are they not samyak drishti? Are they not having? Are they not cannot can they not be termed as a samyak jnani? They are master of their field. They have established their success in their field, right? Why shouldn't we term them as a true knowledge, or the samyak jnani? The point is not about knowing every worldly thing. It's about what we know about ourselves. It's always starts with ourselves. So this is because their knowledge regarding the seven fundamental elements is incorrect, which renders all their knowledge flawed. Because when one cannot really understand who am I the soul, or am I ajiv, or am I influx, bondage, stoppage, disassociation, liberation, who am I really out of these seven elements? And what is my relationship with all these seven stages of seven is or five stages, I would say, starting from influx to the liberation. Unless we know this particular part, whatever we know around the world, that is always and always going to fall into the bucket of mithya gyan, the flawed knowledge only. Now you may think that you are sounding like a biased. I mean, why one should really know these seven elements to be really a uh, or why one should have the right believer to become a right knowledge full person. So let's have an example and have further discussion about. A right believer may not know any mathematics or science and might struggle with solving a simple equation. On the other hand, a professor might solve it within moments. But then also, we are saying, yet the former, due to his right belief, this particular person, in the fundamental elements, is said to be possess right knowledge, whereas the latter, uh, in its absence, does not. Why? Because having all these worldly knowledge about all the topics, whatever topics he is having, what is the understanding or the belief about oneself within this professor's mind? And what is the belief of being oneself? Who am I? What is the answer of that particular part inside this soul? So, this is always seeing himself as a knower, as a person or the persona which is really having the only one thing to do in the world, which is knowing the thing. And over here, it is overburdened, overshadowed with the influx, with the uh, thinking like, I'm the doer, I have to do this much, I'm the doer of this, I have done so much. So every time this soul is basically influxed with the karmas, and that is where, in the absence of the right belief, every knowledge which is possessed here is just information, or for that matter, it is a wrong knowledge which is always going to increase the cycle of the birth and death. So, right knowledge in this context refer to the understanding that aids in the liberation of soul. Worldly knowledge does not contribute to liberation and it's therefore considered the wrong knowledge. So, how can I really understand this? So, in front of me, there is a laptop. Okay. I may, being hardware, I mean, maybe I'm hardware expert and then I know what is the specification of this particular laptop or mobile, uh, its camera, its processing power, its GPU, its uh, RAM, ROM, every specification I know, right? That is one thing. And then there is a Samyak Drishti Purush behind me who is also seeing this laptop, which doesn't have any clue about like what this damn thing is all about. But he is knowing one thing, that this particular gadgets in front of me is not me. It is different than me. It is not the cause of my happiness or the sorrowness. I am only the person. I am the one who is the designer of my sorrowness and the happiness. So this laptop doesn't have any connection with my sorrowness or the happiness. Now, what exactly you will call as a right knowledge? The whole specification part? Does that giving me happiness? No. Even whatever I know, it is giving me ego, or it is giving me uh, the other part of the ego. I may be feeling less that I don't know uh, so much about this particular industry or this particular gadgets or this particular device. But at the very moment, the person who is in front of me, behind me, seeing this laptop really doesn't affect himself. I know this laptop, and knowing this laptop in a way like it is not me, it is not going to make me happy. That is what called as a right knowledge, right? So that is where the all worldly knowledge really doesn't make any contribution in the path of liberation. And this right knowledge is further grows. So as the soul attains the right belief with the true foundation, its knowledge become the right knowledge, samyak gyan, and it is progresses further on the path of purification. Knowledge is having the very important phenomena, or the factor is having the right establishment infused with the right belief, and then every time distinguishing who am I and who am I not, what I should really uh, take it forward, and what I should leave behind, right? So that particular purification part is happening with this knowledge, and this knowledge is refined and eventually transformed into omniscience, which is keval gyan. So right now we have the uh, mati gyan, shruti gyan, which is not having that capacity that the whole world could be known in it, right? So not having that much uh, that much power available at the moment. But when this uh, the pragat gyan, the existing knowledge is basically, this pragat knowledge is basically turned towards oneself, that the very what I was said, seed becomes the started cultivated, and then becomes the uh, banyan tree of omniscience keval gyan. So this right knowledge will be becoming the omniscience keval gyan. That is where the power of uh, true belief comes into the picture. So true beliefs, true knowledge, and then the third gem will now be the right conduct. This very right establishment is going to give us the peaceful life, I would say, the very balanced life, whatever time we are here. And then on the path of liberation, one really enjoy, one really become happy uh, with this right belief and the right knowledge. So we'll be stopping here for now. Over to you, Harshil bhai.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Can you unshare your screen? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much for this beautiful explanation to Samyak Gyan, right knowledge. So in today's lecture, we have learned the Swarup of Samyak Gyan as well as the types of Mithya Gyan, Sanshaya, Viparya, Anadhyavasaya, with very beautiful examples which Bhaiya have given. So now the session is now open. If anybody has any question related to the topic, please feel free to ask, comment, and if you need to add anything, feel free to please add any points. Anybody? Any questions or any additions to the discussion? Okay. So I have one question from the audience. The question is, what is the time difference between Samyak Darshan and Samyak Gyan? In today's presentation, Bhaiya beautifully explained through one single slide with one example of a candle. So, what is the difference between right belief and right knowledge? There is a time difference or there is no time difference? Anyone? Okay, so Bhaiya, would you like to answer this question? You already explained, but since there is no response, I would invite you to answer this question.
Right. So we have already discussed, like with the example of that candle and light. So candle will always be called candle when then and then only when there is a light. I'll take the different example at the same time. Who is born first, mother or daughter? Who is born first, mother or daughter? You would say obviously mother because she is older than daughter. No, actually mother will called only mother when there is a daughter, right? So at the very moment when daughter took birth, at the same time mother also took birth from mother point of view, right? So similarly, when right beliefs comes into the picture, then only the whole knowledge becomes the right knowledge, and there is no time difference between the right knowledge and the right belief. And
Perfect.
yeah,
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
yeah, so and this is phenomena which we really need to think for ourselves. Like unless I know myself, whatever knowledge I'm having, is that knowledge really contributing anything towards the liberation? So the answer is no. Every time whatever I will know, I will be knowing, I'll either be doing the rag or dvesh or moh. So that is always be putting me into the black hole of the world. So that is where that whole knowledge is causing the miseries only. There is no true sense of the happiness going to come into the picture. So that is where we really need to establish first pot correctly, who am I in this world. Then if we know whole the world, then after that if we know the whole world, it's perfectly okay. That will also be going to be come into the keval gyanis gyan.
Right. Thank you for answering this question. I was expecting this answer from the audience, but yeah, thank you for explanation, Bhaiya. Now I have one point which you already explained in the lecture, but before I ask that question to you, I wanted to introduce two terms to the English learning people who only know English, since this is an English learning platform. So there are two terms. One is prayojan bhut, the other is aprayojan bhut. Prayojan bhut means something which is relevant to me, something which is in my syllabus, and I am bothered about it. Aprayojanbhut, something which doesn't have any significance or relevance to my knowledge and my consideration. So these are two, Prayojanbhut and Aprayojanbhut. Now, my point to Anubhav Bhaiya is, after learning your lecture, can you throw some light that can we categorize Aprayojanbhut Gyan as Mithya Gyan or not? You need to answer this question and throw some light. Can we categorize Aprayojanbhut Gyan as Mithya Gyan or not?
Okay, so prayojan bhut is very clear, right? We know seven different elements, we know our part in it, we know who am I, right? So that prayojan bhut part is clear. Now aprayojan bhut gyan, so we were having one particular example in this particular slideshow, uh, that scientist, teacher and everyone, and then other side there was one person who is really not having any knowledge about the NASA, not having any knowledge about the rocket science, right? But then that particular knowledge is categorized as a aprayojan bhut. That knowledge itself is not there, number one. If that knowledge is there but there is some mistake around it, suppose he is having very basic mistake like 2 plus 2 is equal to 5. Now is that really causing any influx, ashrava? You may say yes, because of agyan and all, but is that really increasing the cycle of birth and death? Maybe no, and surely no. So then aprayojan bhut gyan, whatever we are having, it cannot be really having the term as a mithya or samyak. It is aprayojan bhut, which means aprayojan bhut gyan, though from the examiner point of view 2 plus 2 is equal to 5 is wrong answer, zero number, mithya gyan, but in terms of the path of liberation we cannot really term it as a mithya gyan, right? Because mithya and samyak is always coming from the context of who am I and who am I not. It always starts with me. So unless I'm having confusion about myself, the gyan will not be become mithya gyan. So every knowledge, every time we are evolving, we have so many things to learn in this world. All those will not be coming into the mithya gyan part. It will be growing. That will called agyan. Agyan of what sense? Jnana varni karma is there. I'm not having that particular knowledge at the moment. Later on, I'll be having the shayopsham of that particular part. I'll be attaining that knowledge. But that knowledge doesn't make any difference in my liberation part unless it is for Prayojan Bhut Tattva, the purposeful Tattva.
Perfect. Thank you for this explanation. If anybody has any questions further, else we will come to a conclusion. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining this lecture. To conclude this lecture, I would say Samyak Darshan, the second step today we learned is Samyak Gyan. The knowledge which is associated with that right belief is termed as right knowledge. And today we have learned that what is Prayojan Bhut, what is beneficial for me, and what we should know, that knowledge is associated with that right belief. So this is the second step, hence it is in the second position, and that is entirely the knowledge which is associated. And in this way we also know the true nature of ourself, which is prayojan bhut tattva, and attain that right belief, and the gained knowledge is termed as right knowledge. Now, the next will come, the third step is right conduct, which we will be having in the coming lecture. And now to let you know about the accessible points for Jeev, let me share my screen. So to learn these lectures and to learn further topics, you can visit the Jeev website. Under the resources tab, you can navigate to the topic you want to explore. Let's say the three gems which is highlighted here. You can also learn six essentials and Dev Darshan, four stages of existence. When you click on the topic, you will receive a link to access the course. The dashboard will look like this. You can view your course on the dashboard and select the course you wish to access, and you will gain entry to its content, including article, presentations, quizzes, and more. So all the sections of all the resources have been mentioned here: presentations, Gurudev Shri lecture bites, videos, and puzzles, everything. So now, you want to if you have any query related to your portal, related to understanding how to access, you can email us support@jeev.net.in, visit our website, and all the social media handles are mentioned here. So yeah, that's all for today. And Bhaiya, we can proceed with Jinwani Stuti now.
Yeah, sure. Let's join our hand. निज निधि निज में बताई यह अनंत उपकार है, इसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना शत बार है.
9 times Namokar mantra.